Muted. 1 second, fellas. 1 second. Trying to get the video up and going. I don't know what's going on with it, but let me try it one more time. See if we'll get it going. Y'all already know how it goes. There's always technical difficulties with this stuff, but we'll figure it out. Want to make sure y'all can hear the video with sound and everything. Even if we gotta skip the video, it's finna get lit. All right, it's finna get crazy in here tonight. We finna address some problems that a lot of people don't want to address. And that's why as y'all know, YouTube is always trying to demonetize your boy. But it ain't happening. Let's go ahead and get this. Let's get it going this way. Oh my goodness. It's still saying no audio, y'all in? If so, we just gonna have to skip the video and get right to it. If I can't get this, I'm gonna try one more time. If we can't get it to work this time, we gonna have to go and do something else. Get right to the video. Get right to the information. 1 second. Appreciate y'all patience. Finna get it going. This time it should work. Let's see though.
Uber you there, you look cute, you stand.
Tell me you have pretty privilege without actually telling me that you have pretty privilege.
Oh, I have a story. So when I was 22, I randomly moved to LA with no plan, no clue where I was going to live, nothing. I get down there and I ask one of my girlfriends if she wants to hang out. So while we're hanging out, we get to chatting and she goes, hey, why don't you just live with me in the model house for the summer? And I didn't know what that was at the time, but all it is a mansion in the hills where models get to live there rent free. And in exchange, they just have to go to clubs twice a week and look cute. That's it. They Uber you there, you look cute, you stand around usually, and then you go home. And I got to live there for an entire summer because she sent her agent photos of me and my height. And I just got to live there. It was so much fun. I got to meet Ed Westwick from Gossip Girl, Chuck Bass. Oh, I have so many stories from that house.
Tell me you have pretty privilege without actually telling me that you have pretty privilege.
Sometimes when me and my friends are around a group of guys, they'll intentionally ignore me and only talk to my friends and pretend that I'm not there. And I think it's because they're too nervous to come talk to me because they think I'm cute.
Tell me you have pretty privilege without actually telling me that you have pretty privilege.
Before they all figured out that I was gay, I never had to pay for my own tree. Like, if they just gave it to me, I didn't have to do anything for it. Like, they're like, here you go, don't worry about it. Like, okay.
Tell me you have pretty privilege without actually telling me that you have pretty privilege.
Fun fact, actually a really, really dystopian fact that is maybe supposed to be a secret, but whatever. There is this network of apps that are essentially beauty passes. So if you're a model or just like a pretty girl or an influencer, you can apply to get in. They're like exclusive, so not everyone gets accepted, but you apply to get in. And if you get in, there's a shit ton of businesses, restaurants, like massages, facials, lip injections, makeup, clothes, whatever, haircuts, everything, yoga classes, Pilates, everything that you can get for free just if you like tag them on an Instagram story. So if you follow models that post like Joe and the Juice and Pilates on their story every single day, they're not paying for that.
Tell me you have pretty privilege without actually telling me that you have pretty privilege.
I've never paid my own way into a club. I used to hang around the drag strip close to my hometown, and I would ask random guys to drive their supercars, and they would let me. When I wanted to be a stripper, I did not have to audition. I haven't paid for over half of my tattoos. For those of you who've been here a while, yes, that includes the tattoo. I've never been ID'd or denied a drink before.
About a year and a half ago, my ex and I were both driving home from a date. We got pulled over and accused of racing. The cop that pulled him over tried to take him to jail. The cop that pulled me over told me I was too pretty to be out here racing and I would be such a shame to see such a face go to waste.
He had said nothing to me the whole day. He immediately turns to her and starts making conversation. Within 2 minutes, she had his job that he does, his name. They connected on social media, and she was invited to a party in the Hollywood Hills that night. I lived in LA for 3.5 years. I went to a party in the Culver City Hills because I had a friend who lived there. I was never invited. And I thought about this and I said, this is the kind of thing that can happen to you in Los Angeles if you have this kind of pretty privilege. It can. I used to have a friend, I did improv classes with her. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, guys stop me on the street when I'm driving and they'll pull me over and they want to talk to me and they're like CEOs or this. When I tell you most of the traumatic dating experiences I had in LA were because I was only matching with people who were like pizza delivery drivers. I think another part of that is because men who consider themselves to be high earners, they consider themselves to be high value men. They are looking for high value women. This is why someone like Lori Harvey or Sierra or even a Cassie, they're not role models to me, and they never were. I know, like when Sierra got with Russell, there was all this talk about, oh girl, what prayer did you pray? What prayer? I could sit up here all day. I could live 24 hours a day in a convent just praying to Jesus, please, please. I honestly believe that there are certain levels in society, and certain men at certain levels are looking for a certain type of woman. Sierra was not just your regular, schmegular girl. Okay. She's not a 7th grade English teacher from, nowhere city, the United States. I'm just being honest. Sierra is gorgeous. She's 5'10". She's a model.
Y'all can hear me now, right? What's up with y'all? Back with another video. Guys, YouTube, y'all already know how I go with the freedom of speech thing. I don't got to get into a whole spiel. A lot of these platforms, they will moderate what you can say, okay? And it makes me have to work because I do a lot of stuff based on stats and facts. I don't get why there is that bias towards the information that I give in particular. I consider myself to be pretty fair about the information I give, but YouTube sees otherwise. So you guys can go and be a part of the Patreon if you want to get exclusive content like this. I will be doing live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. I have live streams scheduled for the next 2 or 3 weeks. After the live streams, though, I will be pulling them off of YouTube and putting them onto my Patreon. So if you're not here live, you won't have access to the information that I present live unless you go to my Patreon. And on Tuesday, I have Dr. Don Dutton coming in. He's a author, and he does a lot of. He involves a lot with. He's written three or four books on abuse, basically, and how big of a problem it is when it's committed against men, and the fact that we don't talk about it and this and that. So he'll be here on Tuesday. I might keep that one up for long term, but on Thursday I got JT the accountant coming in. He's going to tell us how to make money, how to save money, how to get money. Then on that next Tuesday I got a surprise show for everybody. I'm not going to tell nobody about it, but if you want access to those shows, if you're not going to make it here live, you have to go to Patreon to get access to those shows. Also, any videos that get demonetized on YouTube will go straight over to Patreon. But I know y'all ain't here for that. Let's go ahead and get right into the information. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to be talking a little bit about pretty privilege, and today I have Naila in the chat. She'll be coming in a little later. But first, I'm going to go ahead and do a little monologue on what I'm seeing when it comes to pretty privilege. Let's start with the definition, because this word has been thrown around a lot, right? We always hear this word. It can be used on both sides, male, female, whatever it may be. There's a lot of people talking about entitlement and what it means to be entitled. The definition of entitled or being entitled is believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. Inherently is the key word in that sentence, because obviously if you deserve extra praise, you should get extra praise. But if you inherently, I see people in the comments going crazy, but if you inherently believe that you should be inherited some kind of special privilege, that is entitlement. What women are experiencing, especially when it comes to this pretty privilege thing, is basically what it's like to be 95% of men. Okay. Let's put that into comparison. And because women are 10s, every woman is a 10. Every woman comes out and they believe that, and they have this energy. They feel like they can date 10s, and that's how they end up in heartbreak. But let's compare and contrast what a lot of people would consider to be not having pretty privilege. A lot of women like to consider these things to be not having pretty privilege. We'll start with catcalling or free attention. And this is why I always tell women, because a lot of times when I have these conversations about catcalling and this and that, they're being had by women in their prime, should I say. Okay, so because I'm 25, a lot of women that I conversate when I'm talking about these topics are about 20 to 30. Okay, and the one thing I always tell them is when they complain about catcalling, I tell them the thing that's worse than catcalling is when there ain't no more catcalling. That's going to be the worst day when them DMs dry up and all the people that used to care about you and compliment you when you went out and did all this and this and that. It's going to be a tough day. But I'm comparing this to living like 85% men because I know that this is hard for a lot of women to believe. All right, I get that because women have inherent value, and a lot of times they don't have to work to add that value in the dating market specifically. I'm only talking about the dating market here. I'm not talking about out in the career world or whatever people want to do. This isn't that. I'm talking about for most men, you go throughout your entire lives without getting a single compliment ever. Okay, so a lot of the times, as a man, you're never getting compliments. You put on your best clothes, you put on the cologne, you try to look nice, and you do whatever you got to do. You go out, and for majority of men, unless you're in the top 10%, and this isn't me complaining because men generally get it. We're like, okay, whatever. I'm going to add value in other ways of my life. But unless you're in the top 10% of men when it comes to looks specifically, because even if you're in the top 10% of men when it comes to money, you'll still go out and never receive compliments. Okay. So unless you're in the top 10% of looks, and when I say looks, I mean height, you have a certain body type, usually it's athletic or skinny. Okay. You're just overall, your face is more attractive than other guys too. Because you could be a guy, you could be good looking, but if you're not tall enough, you're not going to make the cut. You're not going to get compliments from random women on the streets. It's just unlikely to happen. And so in that sense, already, that's one of the examples that I have, but that's already how women who say and complain that they don't have pretty privilege are just living the lives of 85% of men. Welcome to the world. Welcome to what you said you wanted to be like. All right. It's cold over here. All right. For guys, you don't walk down the street and just get random compliments for not achieving anything in your life. Guys, you have to go out and work for any kind of accomplishment, any kind of achievement, any kind of congratulations. That's all stuff that men have to work for. Okay. Another way, getting into clubs for free. Not only do regular men not get into the club for free, so we're equal on that standpoint, but men get charged a premium. So many times have I seen women for ladies it's $10, for the fellas it's $20. You know what I'm saying? If there's any guys, I know there's plenty of guys listen that understand what I'm saying. All right, because this is just, it's typical. But there are the get in the clubs free unless you're a man of a certain status. Okay, unless you're a man that. And I'd say specifically for status, because it don't matter how you look. So you got to be able to flip flop as a man. Sometimes it's applicable to look good. Sometimes it's applicable to have status. And in this case, this is where status comes in. Men aren't ever going to get into the club for free unless they have a certain amount of status. And that's usually worked for. So complaining about status to men or complaining about not getting into the club for free, a lot of men are going to say, cry me a river, because we don't have that inherent value. Okay, and I know that's hard for a lot of women to understand, but since we don't have that, it's hard to be sympathetic towards somebody that's complaining about things that a lot of men would die for. All right. But let's get to another one. Buying drinks, free drinks. Free drink. If you're a man, a free drink isn't even an idea. That's not even a concept. We don't even think in terms of that. Men are expected, especially if you're average men, you're expected to go out and spend your money on buying women drinks who then, because they feel entitled by the definition. And that's why I say the definition of entitlement is to believe oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. You've done nothing to get there. You're just a pretty girl in a bar, but you'll get preferential treatment. That's the definition of being entitled for something. So a lot of men that work hard, if you see a high value man and he's worked really hard to get to where he's at, this and that, he's not entitled to, he doesn't have to feel entitled to have a woman because he deserves that woman because he's worked hard to prove his value. Does that make sense? So when you talk about rich men and men that are high value men, it's never entitlement because they've worked to get what they feel like they deserve. They didn't inherently assume that they should have it just because it's a thing. Let's get to the last one. Competition. All right. Women who believe that they don't have pretty privilege. A lot of the problem is they don't want to have to compete for men. Okay. And if you're a pretty woman, if you're a 9 or a 10, you don't have to compete for men. You just don't have to. That's part of being a 9 or a 10. But everybody ain't a 9 or a 10. That's the whole point of having 9s and 10s. That's the reason we have averages. If everybody was above average, the above average would now be the new average. And so it would just push the scale up. That's not, you get where I'm going? But unless you're top 10% of men in terms of looks, and I'm talking, you get where I'm going. Height, a certain body type, a certain whatever, you got to compete against men. All right. You're in constant competition for the next man up. That's just part of the game as men. So when you say that a woman doesn't have pretty privilege, you're just talking about what it's like to be a man, pretty much, to be 95% of men, with the exception of a very small few. This all comes down to hierarchies, okay? And in any social, when it comes to any social beings, when it comes to any social animals, okay, I'll say. So when you look at lions, they live in prides. When you look at chimps, they live in troops. There's always a social hierarchy. Why do we love social hierarchies? Well, because it says, and I encourage anybody to go out and read Jordan Peterson's analysis on hierarchies, and it's especially the social hierarchies within mammals. It's really interesting. But we love them because, of course, you want the best of your group to be praised for what they do. That's inherent. If you don't have that, then there's no incentive for those great people to go out and build iPhones, to go out and build laptops. So we love hierarchies in that sense. But the problem with the hierarchy, and that's what a lot of dating culture, there's hierarchies. That's the whole rating scale. The problem with hierarchies is there will always be people at the bottom of the totem pole. The people who are at the bottom of the totem pole either want to be at the top, or they are bitter that or they understand that they may never get there, and they just become bitter and they want to flip the hierarchy. But it's pretty much impossible, just because you'll never want people. And when you have that, you have communism a lot of the times. And I'm not finna go all the way down and trying to bore y'all with all this stuff. But basically, in dating, there's going to be hierarchies. When you look at mammals across the board, there's always social hierarchies when it comes to dating. There's nothing new here. Let's get into, for men, the hierarchy seems to be money. And I say that it's specifically money because there's always this conversation guys have between money, looks, and status. What do you think allows you to get and maintain women? Money, looks, or status? I say the male hierarchy is built on money because it is the only one of those three that helps you get and maintain a relationship. You can look like however you want to look. Unless the woman you messing with is way lower than you in that hierarchy, it's not gonna. If she makes it, it's not gonna last. It doesn't matter how good you look. If you don't bring in any money, eventually you're gonna just be seen as a mooch, and you're gonna be kicked to the curb. All right. So I don't think that it's looks. I think that gets you in the door. I think that gets you to the bedroom, but I don't think that brings longevity. So it can't be looks. When we talk about status, it can't be status because status is simply it's kind of a facade for money, and women like status. And this is why people wear status symbols. When you go out, people want to put on the Gucci or Louis Vuitton or the Nike or whatever it may be to show status. It's basically me saying I can afford these status symbols, so I have status, meaning I have money. And I don't think that long term, that's how you can have longevity in a relationship. So I don't believe the status. So the hierarchy for men seems to be money. The hierarchy for females seems to be femininity and their looks. Unfortunately, I believe it's both of them, because looks will get you in the door, and you see it all the time with these Instagram models. Looks get you in the door, but it doesn't mean that you're going to maintain that relationship if you don't have a certain amount of femininity. And when I talk about femininity, I'm talking about you just being agreeable, you being able to be led. All right. And in hierarchies, there's always a top and there's always a middle and there's always a bottom. Okay. And if you're religious, you believe that the man is the head, the wife is underneath, and then the children. Okay. So, I mean, that's just if you're religious. If not, you can see just based on how humans have gotten to where we are, that men typically lead. Women, if they're feminine enough, are happy to be second to that leader and trust him to make the right decisions. And then you have the children underneath, which the woman usually has authority over. And so there are, and femininity seems to be just being okay with knowing your role. There's always a sixth man on a basketball team. Me, when I played rugby, I was a try scorer. I don't have to be the leader of the team. I'm a try scorer. I go and I score goals. That's all I do. All right, I'm happy with my role. I'll let the captain of the team be the leader. He got to rally because it's hard to be a leader. What's the guy? Who's the guy in Game of Thrones? The bald-headed dude, the dude that got castrated, for lack of better words. He got his thing. He said, "I've seen plenty of kings come and go, but I'm still alive." Okay, and that's because leading is a hard task. You should be I don't see why there's even a fight to be the leader in a relationship at all, because leading is such a hard task that, and the people who don't lead have less responsibility. But how do men tend to compensate for being lower on the hierarchy? Well, generally we accept the hierarchy and we try to get better. Okay. And that's the most important thing. You have to accept where you are. You have to know where you are first. Then you have to accept where you are. Then you have to try to do better if you can. Guys do this all the time by being funny, by trying to work out to have an athletic build, or by focusing on skills, whatever, to get you to the next level financially. And in the video that woman posted that I had at the beginning of this video, she talked about how, and I see this a lot with women, she talked about how her coping with that, with the fact that she doesn't have pretty privilege, made her want to be loud in public. Okay, and I think that was a very important point that not enough people talk about. A lot of, and I'll say specifically women, sometimes it's guys, y'all all heard of the little man complex or whatever. Everybody knows he wants to fight the biggest man in the room to prove that he's bigger, this and that. That's just because he may feel small and society may looks at him as lower on the hierarchy. He wants to prove that he's higher on that hierarchy. Well, a lot of women deal with the problem by being overly loud. Okay. And I'm not going all the way down the road, but you see it. Sometimes women, they'll be overly loud to try to get the attention of the guys they feel like they want. They'll be overly sexual sometimes. I've seen women use that a lot. If they don't feel like they're attractive enough or have a certain amount of value, they'll attempt to be more sexual in order to get that attention. And it's all a big mess. I have Naila here, and she's going to talk with me. I don't want to, carry this monologue on for too long, but I have Naila in here. She's going to help me go ahead and bring her home. And Naila, how do you feel about pretty privilege?
Oh boy, you know how I am. I have a lot of feelings about it. The one that really struck me the most was the woman, the black woman at the end. Her name is it's okay if I say her name on here?
Oh yeah, I mean she's a public figure.
Her name
she
was
put herself out.
Yeah, her name was Stefco, and I ran across her video that somewhat went viral, almost 500,000 views. And I heard her talking about this concept called pretty privilege. And, it sparked my interest and I began to listen to her. And what really kind of threw me off is that this woman is 37 years old. The things that she was talking about, pretty privilege, these were concepts and things that I dealt with in middle school and high school. So when I hear a woman that's 37 years old, talking about how she, doesn't get drinks paid for her, I think she said people weren't doing stuff for her at the job. She couldn't get into the VIP. Like these little trivial things like that. What really struck me was not the concept of pretty privilege. That wasn't it. It was the fact that a woman at 37 years old has nothing else to offer the younger generation but this
Right.
entitlement attitude. She has in her 37 years, she has no wisdom, no guidance. She has nothing to offer the younger people. That is kind of more what struck me than just this concept. We kind of figure out where we belong, like I said, like junior high, high school, a little bit into college. By the time I was 20, I was kind of over that whole thing. You know what I mean? Just a quick thing. I remember when I was in high school, you had the captain of the drill squad for us, and she was with the football team, the quarterback. You know what I mean? And you kind of understood where your place kind of was in society.
Mm-hmm.
You get it, and you said, okay, well, I'm not the captain of the cheerleader. However, you know what I'm saying? I can do this, that, or the other thing to overcompensate for that. But how does a young girl learn this when you have 37-year-old women filling their heads with this garbage?
I know.
Yeah,
That's
it was very
that's
sad.
and I wonder what is it about women in particular that makes them want to reject what they already know as hierarchies in our dating realm. You know what I mean? I feel like so many women know that they may be at the bottom or in the middle or at the top, but they try to neglect it to make people feel better. Why is that what it is? Is it just to make women feel better? Other women next to them feel better?
You know what I think it is? I think we've dealt with hierarchies in society for thousands of years, right? And we've just been fine with the way things have been. People understand. People, men are going to want to look at something beautiful. We all know this, and for centuries it's been fine. I think our issue today is social media.
Mm.
Not just the social media that we have like today, but even the media that we've had since we first had television and movies. And it
Right.
puts these ideas into people's heads that are unrealistic, and they start to think something that is fantasy is a reality. Women knew for thousands of years that if you were the beautiful woman, the damsel, whatever, then you get the king or you get the prince, and that's how it goes. But some woman is going to be the peasant's wife. And she was happy with that because she had a man over her to protect her in a very harsh world. Right. And so forever that was fine. Now, all of a sudden, since the world is a lot a bit easier for women, then they're not content with being chosen to be the wife of whoever that they fit for. They're not happy with that anymore. So you have this 37-year-old woman who didn't learn the knowledge and the wisdom that I'm speaking now. She didn't learn it. So she ended up 37 years old, no husband, no children. And she's online complaining about the fact that she can't get drinks, and she can't. Her other thing was she doesn't turn heads when she comes into the room. How silly is this?
Right. I mean, you're
So
talking about that's 90% of 95% of the human beings on the planet. What happens is people idolize these people that are out of reach in terms of who they are. And one thing in particular that she said that kind of led me, it made me, I felt a little different about what she was saying after she said it. And I think we spoke about this before. It was the fact that she said she's only been paired with pizza delivery guys. right? As in, like, the guys that she's been paired with are not up to par with what she wants, and that's I think that's ultimately the reason why she's alone. Is because you trying to date guys that are out of your reach. You want and not only that, but she's in LA, the most competitive market, California, and we spoke about this. California is the most competitive state in America, maybe next to Florida in terms of good-looking women. So you take those same looks down to Tennessee or Arkansas, and you in a whole different ball game. But you want to stay in LA and compete against all them women, and it's just going to be it's going to be tougher competition there.
Well, yeah, when I think, that's where I'm from. I was raised in California. That's where I did my dating. I've only been in the South for the last 4 years. So I absolutely understand the LA market is, it's impossible almost. However, I looked at some of this woman's other videos, and she said that she's lived in different parts of the country and she's dated many different men from different races. And I don't know if she was being honest or not.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what you're saying is correct. She was not happy with what she was able to get. But here's the hypocrisy. She's not happy with what she can get. But do you think the man that gets her is necessarily happy with what he gets? He understands that that's what he gets. And for thousands of years, we've understood this. And she could have been with her man, serving her man. I think I said this in my video. He brings his pizza delivery money in. She brings her money in. They bring it together. They invest, they buy property, and you build. And that's how it's always been done. But all of a sudden, it's not good enough anymore.
Right. No, yeah, I completely, I think, and that's exactly, it has to be the fact that average men don't have opportunities anymore. And I think that if there's one thing that Kevin Samuels has done a really good job of, it's showing how 6 and 7s expect 9 and 10 treatment in 2021. It's insane to me. And I think a little bit what has to do with it too is the sexual liberation movement. And I have a chart that I put up on a couple other videos where it talks about just the chances of dating a woman and how many bodies, how many partners a woman had before marriage, historically speaking, versus now. And when I tell you the percentages are astronomically different, you really see the deterioration of marriage right before your eyes when you're looking at these charts. We know for a fact that women who are the more partners you have as a woman equals the lower your happiness and the length of your marriage will be. The more partners you have, the shorter your marriage and the less happy your marriage will be. All right, so that's already a fact. Okay. And we have more and more women feeling like they can just go out and do whatever they want without consequence. And what it comes down to is indulgence. Anything you do where you overindulge, there's consequences for it. And that comes from, you do alcohol. Yeah, alcohol feels good, but you can't go out and do it every night or you're going to become an alcoholic. There's consequences. If you eat pizza every night, I love pizza, I love steak, but if I eat too much of it every night, I'm going to be 400 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, who doesn't like sex? Everybody likes sex, but you can't go out and have sex with everybody in the world because you run the risk of STDs. You run the risk of getting pregnant. There's always consequences to overindulgence. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of those consequences have been nullified by this sexual liberation movement. So.
But I think that kind of spans, several different areas. The thing you're talking about, the overindulgence. I mean, you have shows now called 600-Pound Life. You know what I mean? There's really people out here, 600 and 700 pounds is overindulgence. And, as far as this woman speaking about her dating life, what women are wanting, they're wanting the attention of all the men. But you really only need to get one. All she needed to do was focus on getting one man, but that is not going to make her happy. She wants to be the quote unquote standard. And I did want to touch on this, and you mentioned the big C word in your when you were speaking in the beginning there. And it's so funny, we are so on the same page because if you really want to dig deep into this reeks of Marxism all over it because nowadays,
that's why you heard me when I said the word. I said the C word. I came back from it. I just touched it a little bit, just because that's for the people who get it, and some people won't get it. Some people just don't.
there's people listening right now that have no idea what we're talking about, but some people absolutely know. And so we can dance around it a little bit, but I got to touch on it a little bit because
Oh yeah, you
this,
could go ahead.
okay. I'm always, want to be careful. But
Yeah.
see, all of a sudden, we have all these different types of privileges. We've got pretty privilege. We've got white privilege. I think skinny privilege. There's if the different type of hair, that's a privilege. All these different things that they want to tell you. This makes you, better, than someone else. But we don't like that. We want everyone to kind of sort of be the same, right?
Right.
Everyone should be on the same level. What does that sound like? Sounds like utopia for some people, right?
Yeah.
All of us are the same. No one's above or below anyone else. Isn't that utopia? And so what happens? Some people want to, quote unquote, create that here on earth, but that's not the reality of it. And here is the beginning of Marxism.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is we are not all going to be equal. We do not all get the same starting point. We don't all have the same middle or the finish. You get what you get in life. You make the best of it, and that's the outcomes you get. And like I said, since the beginning of time, we've been okay with this, but all of a sudden, that's not okay anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm looking at it seems, and that's why I said when you overthrow social hierarchy, you automatically get communism, right? It is
Yes.
in its nature not giving the people who deserve it the credit that they deserve and taking what they have done and giving it to the masses because you feel like there should be equality across the board. But what you find, because let's take Russia, for example, and I know this is kind of getting a little political for the people
I
that's,
know,
all over but
tiptoe.
let's take Russia, for example. It was we understand where that went, right? But
Yes.
one of the big things in particular that turned it, that started the famine for them was the fact that they took the land from farmers that deserved the land and knew and were competent enough, skilled enough to work on that land, and they gave it to regular people because they believed that everybody should be equal. Okay. And when they did that, famine happened. Why? Because the people that got the land didn't know what to do. They weren't competent. All right. So if we break up Tesla and start giving it to random people in America because we want communism, that ain't how it works. And it's subtle. Okay, so a lot of these ideas seem to be subtle. A lot of it is
they're subtle
let's
to
give everybody
the lay person. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts with let's give everybody participation medals. Then let's you get where I'm going. Let's implement more taxes, and then but I don't want to get too far into the political side. That's going to lose a lot of people. But I did find that graph, Naila. Let me read you some of the stuff from this graph. Okay, so this is the 70s compared to modern day. All right. To find a woman before marriage, the percentage of women that had zero partners, so a virgin before marriage, was 21% in the 1970s. That percentage is now.
What was the percentage?
In the 70s, the number of women that had zero partners was 21%.
21%. Okay.
21% of women, when they got married, had zero partners. Now that percentage in 2021 is 5%.
Wow.
The number of women that had one partner before marriage, so probably the person they got married to, was 43%. So you're looking at 64% of people in the 1970s either had zero partners or one partner when it comes to women being married. And the one partner was probably the person they got married to. But that percentage is now 22%. The number of people with two partners was 16%. Now it's 12%. The number with three partners was 8%. Now it's 11%. Four to five partners was 6%. And now it's 18%. 6 to 9 partners was 4%. Now it's 14%.
Wow.
And 10 plus partners used to be in 1970. It used to be 2% of women had 10 plus partners. Now that percentage has went up by 900% to 18% of women have over 10 partners.
Wow.
And we're supposed to just act like that has no effect on the longevity and the happiness of people in marriages. And ideas like pretty privilege are destructive at the root because they make women feel like they are entitled to those. They make women feel like they are entitled to what somebody else gets because they are women. Does that make sense?
It
Women,
absolutely does make sense. Okay.
that's part of the hierarchy. We give people at the top of the hierarchy extra benefits for being at the top of the hierarchy and proving their worth to society. Same with pretty women. Unfortunately, they don't have to create the worth, is given to them innately, but they still are at the higher of those hierarchies, so they get inherited benefits. So it's just, that's just part of it for me.
You know, something interesting that, you got to kind of use your brain, twist your brain a little bit to really, really see what's happening here. I think what's going on in nowadays is we have a lack of gratitude. We don't understand gratitude anymore because so many things come to us so easily. When you really think about it, the woman, Steph Co or what have you, if she had some gratitude, she would see the numbers you're talking about, women being with 10 plus men. A lot of these women that quote unquote have this pretty privilege, they do have it. That's fine. But a lot of them are getting completely ran through.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So to be honest with you, the person that really has the blessing would have been her if she would have really capitalized on it. Whatever man that was going to be with her, and I'm not saying she's an ugly woman, but he was going to be with her because he truly loved her. She doesn't
Right.
have to be in the bar every weekend, getting free drinks. At 37, she's supposed to be speaking about married life with her husband and how to be a submissive wife and how to care for children. That's what she's supposed to be talking about. But those men weren't good enough for her because she was not grateful that a man would show some interest in her. I mean, that's what it, yeah.
And a little bit to add on to that is women don't understand that when you date a man that's at your level, the competition is less, especially if you're average. So that's a blessing in disguise for average people. Is you don't have to worry about your partner going out and messing with some girl and this and that. Those are problems that you generally don't get as much when two people are on the same level. I'm not saying it ain't gonna happen, because it might happen. It just, people are people. People do whatever they want to do, but it's less likely to happen than if you got a girl that's a 6, like Derek Jackson's case. You got a regular looking woman with a dude that makes a lot of money, athletic build, taller guy. A lot of influence, of course. Like, everybody could have seen that coming. Like, it's just normal. That's how it works.
And that's the thing. That's what's like kind of really sad, about this whole thing about pretty privilege and all these different things. Envy. I think that's a huge part of this. You know what I mean? Yeah. What happens, especially with social media, we see images of people and we envy them. We don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. Right. You know what I mean? All these young women now are making these videos about pretty privilege, but in reality, you think that a beautiful woman doesn't go through problems? Let's look at Halle Berry. That's what she was considered one of the most, and probably still is considered one of the most beautiful women on this planet.
Exactly.
She cannot keep a man for the life of her. A mess. And there's many women. I think what was the white woman? I can't think of her name right now. The blonde haired from back in like the 50s or the 60s, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, Marilyn Monroe.
Didn't she die over? You know what I mean? Dorothy Dandridge. Her story was sad too. When you have an envious spirit, you don't see the humanity behind these people. Yes, they had a privilege of being a little more attractive. Doesn't mean that they don't go through things.
Right.
How about you show some gratitude and look at what you're privileged in? We talk about pretty privilege, white privilege, and I think I said in my last video, that woman had the privilege of having sight.
Right.
The use of her limbs, all these things, but because of that envious spirit, that's not enough for her.
Yep.
Right?
No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree, and I think too, on the men's side, when it comes to envy, I think a lot of guys, more than they want to admit, are envious in the fact that women don't understand how good they get it sometimes. And like the fish doesn't know it's swimming in water because it's always been in water. It's that kind of analogy, right? Women don't understand how much of a blessing it is to come into the world with your value already intact. And a lot of guys, we can't sympathize with things like pretty privilege because for 95% of guys is not even an idea. We don't even look at that as an option in life. Even if you are a man that gets to the point where you're average looking, but you have a lot of money, unless you have the status that goes with it, you ain't gonna have no male pretty privilege or whatever that is. That's something that must be specific to women, because I've never even heard of that concept when it comes to men.
It absolutely is specific to women, and I think that's why, in the Black community, how like we're a matriarchy and the women are, like the head in our community. I think this is a prime example why that's not a good idea, because this idea of all this privilege, victimhood, these are all very feminine concepts.
Exactly.
These are not masculine, but our entire community is following along with this, because there was another because I was looking around before we did this. I want to make sure I'm up on things. And I saw so many different channels, and these women are talking about this pretty privilege thing. I guess it's been around for a while. I'm new too. I had no idea.
Well, it's kind of. I mean, for me, I've known about it just because to me it's kind of obvious. I mean, some girls get in the clubs for free, some don't. Some girls get in the VIP, and I've seen it when I was out with my team. I would see certain girls getting in the VIP, and other girls wouldn't. So I get it, but it doesn't matter, because you're never.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Naila.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I understood these things in junior high school and high school, and so what I'm seeing is fully grown women that didn't they had what's called arrested development, is what you call. You know what I'm saying? There's a movie called Failure to Launch. They didn't grow into their womanhood, so they're still sounding like little children with being upset by this pretty privilege. So I heard another podcast of a bunch of women, unattractive women, they were overweight as well, complaining about this pretty privilege, grown women. And the words that they use the word that because they don't have pretty privilege, they are demarginalized and dehumanized.
Oh, good God.
Yes, sir. That's what, and so that's why I want to dig a little bit deeper. This is just not about looks. When you're feeling that you are dehumanized because you don't have you're not getting flued out and all these different things, that's where the problem is. So as I'm listening to these women talking about because they don't have this privilege, they're dehumanized. You know what happens? See, I don't want to go here. I'm trying
No,
to.
you can go ahead. Do this show for anybody else. Keep that thought. Keep your thought. But this show for everybody that's in here is going to go straight to Patreon. YouTube has been demonetizing me on certain videos. Obviously, they push this agenda to not have certain conversations to be had. I'm not going to follow it. I'm going to post videos on YouTube still. Don't get me wrong. But the videos that get demonetized on YouTube will go to my Patreon. All of my live streams will also go to my Patreon. So if you're not here during the live stream, you'll miss it because it's going to go to Patreon. On Tuesday, I have Don Dolliver or Don. Yeah, I keep messing up in there. I have Don Dutton coming in. He's an expert on male domestic violence or domestic violence committed against men. He's going to tell us what we can do, and there are certain options that men may have, and how prominent it is for men to be abused by women, and how there is a lack of the police caring or authority caring about it. Also on that Thursday, I have another show coming up with a great accountant. He's going to tell us what he would do with $10,000. He's going to give us some of the game, talk to us about the PPP loans and this and that. So I got some interesting stuff coming, but if you want access to that, unless you're going to be there live the whole time, you'll have to go to my Patreon and become a member. So, but go ahead though, Naila. Let's go ahead and dig a little bit. Let's see where we can go. Let's see where the rabbit hole goes.
No, I'm going to dig just a little tiny bit. Okay. So, this is about to be deep. Okay, I'm not even going to lie. This is about to be deep. Since World War I know, but I'm gonna get there as soon as I can. I'm gonna try to get there quickly. There has always been some political power, some force that wanted world domination. Do we know this, or is this brand new information?
Well,
from
I know this for a lot of other people that
a lot of people don't. That has always been a problem that the United States has always tried to fight. There always has been a communistic force that wanted to take over and control the world. And for many years, the United States and the people of this country understood that. This day and age now, we don't. We don't get that that's still a threat to us. We don't understand.
Right.
We haven't studied war. We haven't studied history. I'm getting there. I'm gonna get there
I
quickly for
think
those that are left far behind. I'm gonna get there.
I think that has a lot to do with. No, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that so many companies now have learned to virtue signal. So,
Okay.
so for example, they'll go. They don't know that Rockefeller, the first billionaire that America's ever seen, used to give out quarters and nickels because he had such a bad public image. And so to correct that public image, he would get photographers to take pictures of him giving out nickels to poor people. That's kind of the same way he virtual signal. But while he's doing that, he's also taking billions of dollars from different places in the US and cheating people out of money. Same with like Amazon. They'll go, yeah, let's support Amazon. They support BLM. Well, they only support BLM because as long as the movement and the rioting goes, small businesses won't be able to operate. So Amazon has no competition. So if you look at it from an emotional standpoint, people go, yeah, Amazon's with us in the fight, not realizing that Amazon's only doing it for profit like most other companies. Same with Amazon supporting $20 wages. They only did that not because they care about Hispanic people or Black people or people that are not paid enough. They did it because they know that regular mom and pops wouldn't be able to afford to pay people a certain amount of money so they could get them out of the way. So I think that has a lot to do with people not knowing about certain powers that may be because they are given they give you a little bone. They give you something to chew on for a little bit, and it's usually enough to pacify people. I think the same thing happened with the feminist movement and the sexual liberation movement. The sexual liberation movement was funded by men. Because at the end of sexual liberation, the only people who win is men. Women don't get anything out of sexual liberation movement. So, and the fact that was funded by men, women seen that as a victory for them. But let's look at the rate of let's look at your chances of becoming a mother. Let's look at your chances of getting married. Let's look at the happiness level of women in 2021 versus the 70s, all down. So, my bad. I went on a little thing there. But yeah, you're talking about people not knowing about the powers that be.
Oh, right. And so just so I can keep on that same line, basically what it is to put it plainly, sorry, my dog just came in. There's people that are across the sea that would love to see the destruction of the United States. And the best way you can see that happen is if you cause inner turmoil. And so what happens is they find certain groups, BLM is a prime one, and they fill our heads with this idea that we're I said demarginalized or dehumanized, you're not good enough, and it causes a rift and a destabilization in our society. And you pick women like these who are unhappy with their position. You have these powers that be that come in and say, you shouldn't be happy. You shouldn't be on the bottom. Why aren't you getting this privilege? And so they get their heads filled up with this. And before you know it, you have a movement called BLM. And another movement, let me say this one, same type of woman, unhappy with her position. And she starts the Me Too movement because she is unhappy with her station in life. So if I can't get all the attention and adoration of men, then none of you women can. And it causes a full destabilization in society. That's why I have a problem with this nonsense that we're talking about right now.
Right. And I think it's just the lack of people being aware of what's going on. Again, when you look at people anytime there's something big that happens in terms of a pandemic or something, a war, it's a way for the government to take a little bit more power. And all this kind of ties in with relationships and all this because it seems to be swinging in the same direction. All right. So now you're taking power by saying, hey, there's a pandemic. You should all be afraid, even though, a lot of people ain't going to die from it. Let's everybody be afraid. But the government then grabs a little bit. You got to wear masks. You got to do this. You have to do that. And people don't see the gradual deterioration of what seems to be to come. We're all being separated. We're all being separated. We're all being separated to be in these little boxes. Okay. Don't go anywhere. Amazon will deliver your stuff. Don't you want a Batman toothbrush? Don't worry. Amazon will deliver it on a drone. You don't even have to leave your house. and we're being put into solitude as social beings. We're getting to the point where men don't even want to be with women and women don't even want to be with men anymore. Destroys the family. It gives you no point of continuing to do what you do. And people don't see that these small gradual things we're only conversating over social media, yet social media has the power to tell you what you can and can't talk about. And like people don't see these gradual steps.
No,
They
they
don't see
don't.
the
They're completely
gradual
blind
steps.
to it. They're completely blind to it, and it's very unfortunate. At the end of the day, the main building block of any successful society is the family unit. So as we say, these powers that be want that family unit destroyed. They want it to crumble. Not just the Black community, even though we seem to be the major victims of it, but the white community as well. Because if you destroy that family unit, you can destroy that whole society. Because what happens is the society falls into moral decline, and that's exactly what we're witnessing with our own eyes, but we don't recognize it.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
seems to be, and this was one of the problems with Rome. There was that's why I covered the topic of overindulgence. When you have things so well that you could get a pizza in 20 minutes, it makes you want pizza all the time. All right, and so there's an overindulgence, and now you have the most obese country on the planet, or in the planet. It goes with so many things. It goes, like I said, alcohol, drugs, anything where you overindulge and you don't practice discipline. It goes negative. It goes bad, and I just think that. Well, I was going to say also, people don't understand their value innately by just being a human being and have your own decisions. One of the best resource on the planet is human beings. And if you can alienate social beings you can take away their moral value, number one, and then you can alienate them. You can do things to them that you wouldn't be able to do if they were allowed to collect in mass. Does that make sense?
I need probably a little bit more understanding on that one.
So like, if I take what is a social being who needs social structure and able to be what it means to be human, you need social structure, you need social interactions physically, and you can see just from Black Twitter how bad it is when people are only allowed to communicate via online. Okay, so if you can alienate those people, put them into little boxes called apartments or houses or whatever it may be, they don't have a family, they don't have a moral structure because that's gone. You can then do things and make them do things that they wouldn't have normally done. So
yes, okay.
When it comes to people don't understand that people only get rich if you have humans as the resource, as the main resource. So
well that kind of we're kind of coming full circle, because when you have a people that are like that, like what you're talking about, others can come in and then control those people.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I think that's like kind of coming back to full circle, because there's certain people in the world that want certain populations controlled, but no one can control. Yes, and no one can control you unless you choose that.
Right.
You know. Okay, I don't want to go religious now, but at the end of the day, we were created a certain way. I know me personally. I one day I woke up and here I am. I'm on this earth. Okay, I'm a female, I'm Black, and okay, now I got to figure out how to navigate this life. You know what I'm saying? Being A, B, C, and D. And like I was saying before, since the beginning of time, we've all accepted that. Here's what I've got in life. Let me now go about the business of surviving.
Right.
Because of this overindulgent society that we live in, we're not just about the business of surviving. We want to be idolized and worshiped and sought after and all these different things, and it takes you off the path. The majority of people on this earth are worried about where their next meal is going to come from.
Right. And a lot of people in America can't relate. We don't understand that. So that's why I always tell people to travel, because we just don't understand that people don't know how they're going to eat tonight, and in majority of the world outside of America.
Yes. So this 37-year-old woman, in her mind, she is demarginalized, dehumanized, victimized. She's oppressed because she does not get the privilege of a small percentage, and
Right.
how immature that is. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the problem. That 37-year-old woman, this is the legacy that she's going to give to younger women below her. That's what makes me sick about this. My heart breaks for the young women, because there's no woman out there that's giving them real wisdom. Be
Right.
upset because they aren't buying your drinks. You're not, heads aren't turning, walk in, oh, poor you. What world have we come to? It's never been like this. And to me, I'm not that old, but this sounds insane to me.
Look, there's someone, and this is the mentality. The majority, the vast majority, and probably you including, if you're on here online, you have so much privilege. Like, you have no idea. And yes, there are poor people, there are homeless people, but even we have shelters for those people. You go to Kenya, ain't no shelters if you're homeless. All right, because that's a lot of people are like that over there. All right, so it ain't no shelter. So there are places you can go if you have problems like that. Now, should there be more? Probably. Is it perfect? No, but it's a lot closer than most other countries. So I don't want to hear.
But you got women online, grown women, talking about how they're not getting drinks paid for them. Are you? I don't know. We're in a different. This is a twilight zone, because, like I said, I think I said this when we first started. This ideal of pretty privilege, I dealt with this in junior high school. Junior high, and it bled into high school. But this is the generation of women that we have now. This is what we've got. And I feel bad, you know what I mean, for you gentlemen out there, that this is what you have to pick from.
Right. I mean, I
How
think
sad.
I think that this is where we are. I don't think that, and the thing is, I don't know if it'll get better. How do you feel about the future of this situation? Do you think that there's going to ever be an end to the gender war, or is this just where we'll be?
It's funny. Online, in different Facebook groups, and they have these conversations, all the time about, okay, what's going to happen? And someone said there'd have to be an end to social media. Because essentially that's the core of this. So many of us, let me just finish this. So many of us, even in my generation, we have been completely, I don't say brainwashed, so to speak, indoctrinated, right? Okay, so the women, they have this idea that they are just the princess, and the man needs to just come in and swoop them up on a white horse. Okay, so the women have that, so they're confused. They believe that all the men should be after them. Okay, but the men got indoctrinated too. The big.
You're right. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you keep going, but yeah, you're right.
Okay, let me just say this, because we forget about that, because in my generation, or even before my generation, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all the music that we listened to, it was all simp music. Put her on a pedestal. You know what I mean? Just anything for the woman. I can't think of any songs right now, unfortunately, but all those songs from the Motown era, all these love ballads, it was about putting the woman on the pedestal, and the woman, it was all about the man coming and swooping you up. This was all propaganda. And we talk about Disney. Yes, Disney is one too. The princess, the man, your Prince Charming's gonna come. That is not the reality of life. And what I want to say to anyone that's listening, when you choose to get married, Disney lied to you. BET Love Jams at night, you know what I mean? They lied to you. It's not about this fantasy romance thing. It's about building legacy, survival. That's what it's always been. But they have your guys' minds twisted to think it's about this romantic sort of lustful love that's going to endure, and it's not. And so that's why people can't stay in their marriages, honestly.
Exactly. It's because they have an unrealistic expectation of what love is, essentially. And a lot of people,
woman ends up alone. Mm-hmm.
The problem is, a lot of people want love to just be the good things, but the love has a lot of bad things too. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so when people are crying at night because they feel hurt, they don't realize that that's a part of love too. It ain't just the goddamn part where you feel like when there's stars in your eyes and hearts beating out of your chest and this, and that. That's the good part. But there's also a bad part, just like everything else.
Man,
So
can I speak real honestly about what love and marriage really looks like?
yeah, oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So it's not what this I have to go back to her. I'm sorry to keep because she's popular right now. It makes me angry what she's doing because she's creating a false world. Here's what love and marriage actually looks like. So, I'm 43 years old, right? This 37 woman, she talked about hot girl summer. I'm a 43-year-old married woman with children. There's no hot girl summer. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
There's no going to the club and there's no DMs. What there is when you become a full-grown adult, you have responsibility.
Right.
And
And
you have
you
my concern at this, and I'm not that much older than her. She's 37. I'm 43. What is that? What's the math on that?
and
But
that,
either,
man, it's
but,
so scary that I see that too. I look at
right.
aunts, uncles, cousins, step aunts, all this and that, and I see
This
people
is
doing the
what we've got.
same thing. I'm like, so y'all just did the same thing from the age of 21 to you 38, and you
Yes,
expected different results.
there's no wisdom. The reality of life is once you get to a certain age, all that partying stops because you have responsibilities. You
Right.
have businesses that you're trying to build. You have marriages that you're trying to keep intact. You have children that you're trying to raise. This 37-year-old woman cannot give a young woman any wisdom because that's not her life. Her life is nothing but still trying to get. I think, what did she talk about? In your first video, she's on the plane with a guy and she was upset because the woman was going to get invited to some party in wherever.
Yep.
When I was 37, you know what I was doing? I was trying to figure out which school to get my kids into
Right.
and which was the best piano teacher and what sports they're going to be and what we're going to make for dinner. These are the things that a woman that is grown thinks about. 37, you're not supposed to be thinking about the party in the hills. That is a
Exactly.
young woman's game. That is why this is sick.
Somebody appreciate the super chat. Clifford Charles, at the Poor Man Podcast. She's talking about the rags to riches of Cinderella. Absolutely. When we was talking about the Disney I mean, they literally taught women that you could be a bum, have nothing going for yourself, and then go out and meet a Prince Charming, and that's going to actually happen. It can happen. It's possible, but it ain't probable. I'll just say it that way. It can happen if you look a certain way, but more than likely it won't. Patricia B, everything on this earth is designed to make us stumble. The answers we seek are in the Bible. Appreciate that super chat, Patricia B. Appreciate that. But I think, like, doesn't it, Nyla, don't you think that people would get tired of not having, like, for example, I went on vacation in March and I went to Kenya for the entire month of March. And by the end of that trip, I couldn't wait to get back home to take on the responsibilities that I had before I left, because maybe I'm just a glutton for suffering, a glutton for working hard, a glutton for, but at some point you have to realize that, like I said, all the indulgences, they don't last long. The gratitude, the feeling that you get from them don't last long. You get drunk and then immediately you got a hangover the next day, right? Like it feels good in the moment, but it doesn't last. That longevity of gratitude is kind of what I chase, me personally. And that's what I've seen common with people who are trying to go to the next level in their lives. It seems to be they're less for instant gratitude and more for gratitude longevity. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. You know what I mean? We're definitely in different times now. You know what I mean? You're young, so it's actually kind of surprising that you have this state of mind, because most young people in this day and age, they don't understand the things and the concepts you're talking about. You know what I mean? There's this instant gratification. Everyone for the vast majority of time, your life was built around survival. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that was your main focus. I just need to survive. But we're
Right.
kind of past that now. And so I think a lot of people are just confused because they're thinking about a little bit more about their emotions, their happiness, their joy, and which I get that, but I think the pendulum has swung too far to the other side. Yes,
Right.
there's a part of life that you want to have joy and happiness and things like that, but there is a part of life where there is suffering, and that is normal. That's part of the human experience, and
Right.
people just don't want that. They're not interested in it. They don't want to feel it. I can only say that I'm very lucky that from the time I was from a young age, all I knew was work. You got to
Right.
work, and you got to sacrifice and delayed gratification. That was just part of what I knew. But this generation now, oh gosh, I want my privilege. And if someone else has it easier than me, then I'm mad and I'm going to make a big fuss about it. If someone has more privilege than me, even though I have privilege, I know I want their privilege.
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
world we live in now, and it's sad.
And this is and this is what he's talking about here in the West. Appreciate the super chat, by the way, Sean Jackson. I appreciate the super chat. The West in general promotes instant gratification in terms of family, and this means we don't really promote long-term generational thinking. We think in terms of hot girl summers, not family legacies. And I can't stress that enough because there are so many people, and it's always been an honor to make this sacrifice because that's exactly what it is. There are so many, especially women now, which has been, it's weird to me because you would never think that this would come from women. But there are a lot of women saying that they don't want to give birth. They don't want to be parents. They don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was such a blessing in and of itself to be able to do that, that how could you then disregard how much of a blessing it is to have that ability to be able to do that and not make the most fulfilling sacrifice many humans can make. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what it is. It's selfishness because at the end of the day, being a parent, like I just said, is the biggest sacrifice you're going to make in your life. I understand that once I become a parent when I'm trying to go for around 30. All right, so I got a few years. Once I do that though, I will be occupied for about 18 to 20 years of my life. It is a huge commitment that one has to make, but it was always seen as an honor. It was always seen as like gratifying. It just seemed like it fulfilled a lot of people, but now you hear women saying they don't want to cook. They don't want to clean. They don't want to have kids. That I'm like, I don't even understand what we doing now. I appreciate that Kev does a lot of stuff. I appreciate that Kev does a lot of stuff. Young men, we have to do the work biblically, financially, mentally, emotionally to stand a chance in this impossible modern dating era. I couldn't agree with you anymore, especially if you're an average looking guy. I mean, it's tough out here. But why do you think that there are so many women that don't find it fulfilling to do what women, traditionally speaking, found fulfilling to do? Do you think it's all social engineering, or how do you feel about that?
I can tell you exactly why. Being a wife and a mom is hard work. You know what I mean? And going back to that indoctrination, this is hard. And so, isn't life better if it's easy? If you can sit back and kick your feet up, isn't that better? And so,
Yeah, but
because of this,
it seems to
let me
be
just finish really
okay. Go
quickly.
ahead, Naila. Go ahead.
No, okay. Let me just finish this quickly. It's been pushed to us that life would be better if you have a life of luxury and relaxation. But even being a stay-at-home mom with a high value man, quote unquote, that takes care of everything, this is hard work. And a lot
Right.
of women just don't want the hard work. And even biblically, even the biblical woman in Proverbs, the godly wife, she still brought in income.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the man, he's working hard to make sure he provides for his household. But as a woman, me personally, I work a job. I still have to make sure my family is nourished and that our home is clean. This is hard work. And a lot of people nowadays are just not interested in hard work because they just watched the latest episode of Real Housewives or
Yeah.
every show they're watching that makes it seem like life isn't hard work, and they get confused and deluded. But the
Well,
reality of it is marriage and being a wife and a mother is indeed hard work, but take pride in it. Okay.
that seems to be another one of those instant gratification things because it's easy to say
Mhm.
no now, but what are you going to feel when you're 80 and there's nobody there to take care of you? And I was
That's
going
the
to release
problem.
this video. It got demonetized. I think I'll release it anyway, but it was on the woman that basically talked about the conspiracy to join the sexual liberation movement with the feminist movement. And
Oh,
basically she was on her deathbed at 80 years old. She spoke about how the biggest regret in her life was not having children. And
wow.
I wonder for how many people that's going to be the reality that they have to live when they're 78. No one wants to take care of. You're forgotten. Let's be completely honest. Other than your immediate family, no one cares about old people. Like, let's just be completely honest. Like, if we're completely honest, not very many people are spending their time with the elderly unless you're paid to.
No,
So
you're not. Hmm.
and there's a lot of wisdom that's lost there, but at the end of the day, that's the situation that we're in. And there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of women in particular that are going to be at the end of the day looking back and saying, man, I wish that was something I got to experience. I wish I got to see what that feels like, or see what that experience was like to feed a child and to take care of a child and to see it grow. And that's something that she can never get back. That those years are gone. So I think
Can
that
I can I
that
say can
instant
I speak to the
gratification.
women? Can I
Yeah,
speak to
go
the
ahead.
women really quick? Now, of course, obviously, not every woman's going to be able to bear children, but the vast majority of them will. Okay,
Right.
but there is nothing like, oh, women, I hope you hear my voice. There is nothing like the feeling that when your husband, uh, oh, I'm trying to be careful, when your husband is with you and wants to produce a life with you, and your bond, you come together and you produce this life, and for 9 months you get to feel this life growing inside of you, this life that your husband placed there, and you create this life, and then you create a legacy for your husband. Now, listen, I get it. It is hard. It is hard. But at the end of the day, all my work, all my troubles, all my, heartache in this life, it means something because I have now brought forth a legacy for my husband. So, the way I was created, with my womb, with my ovaries, and with my breast, I fulfilled my duty in this life.
Exactly. You're
I
literally
I
born
did
biologically
it.
speaking with almost one purpose. And I'm not trying to say all women got to
Yes,
be pregnant,
right.
but
But
pretty
watch
much, I
this
mean,
though.
that's literally what you're here to do. Like, I mean, if we
Right.
completely
But
go
watch
off your
this though.
anatomy,
But watch this though, poor man. Watch this though. Even if you are a woman that doesn't get that, I do have that, yes. But listen, I want everybody to understand my life is not easy. It is tough, very difficult. My marriage is not perfect, but I understand my role. So here's what I'm saying. Even as a woman, your very nature is you can bring beauty, calmness, and serenity to a situation with just your smile and your beauty. Do not flush that down the toilet. It means something. But because women are not necessarily, they don't feel that they're the chosen ones, they're not the ones that every man idolizes, they essentially give up their um their feminine beauty, right? Because they're
right?
not the most desired. Even the most unattractive of women, you still can have a beautiful spirit. This particular woman, she didn't want that. No, I don't want that. I want the men to lust after me. What a
Right.
shameful woman, because all you need is one man. And so, okay, I'm sorry. I start getting,
No,
let
that's
me back
you
up a
you
little
touching
bit.
on some
Yeah.
good topics. You touching
Yeah,
on
I
good.
know, but I just wanna.
Someone
Mhm.
said marriage is financial suicide for men. I mean, what are you just gonna go and imagine? And I'm sorry, I'm a
Oh.
because and I get it, right? I'm married, for people that don't know, by the way. And I get that idea, okay? But women in particular, if you're a man in 2021, are an expensive vice. I like to say they're the most expensive vice on the planet. Not only do they consume a lot of money, but they consume a lot of something you can't ever get back, and that's time. Okay. So a lot of guys will go, and I get it. No, don't get me wrong. Marriage is a horrible deal for men in 2021. Like, don't get me wrong. Marriage is a horrible deal for men. In a lot of cases, there are a lot of men that should have prenuptial agreements in the way so that women can walk away happy, but not with goddamn everything. All right. So I understand that. I get that. Right. But what I'm saying is, you're going to go out and spend all this time trying to get interest in new women. You're going to go out to clubs. You're going to go out doing this and that. Yeah, people don't want to admit it, but it's very expensive and very time consuming to get a woman into the bed. All right. So you're going to spend all that time and money doing that when you could secure a woman that's going to, if you're doing it right and you stand on what you know, you're going to be able to have access to that anytime you need to. And you can go and do whatever you got to do to go and get more for yourself and for her. And that's why you're going to see the top 10 men are all married or used to be married when they were on their climb to where they are now. And that's because it just you don't have to apply the time and the money it takes to secure a woman when you have a woman secure. So I get that mentality. I get it. And I know that that's talked about a lot in the red pill community, but I try to be a little different. I try to look at things from a different opinion. And to me, my time is valuable. That's one of the reasons why I like doing what I do now, because it requires less time than going to work for 40 hours. That time that I have for myself, I can spend learning new stuff. I can spend educating myself. I can spend it on ways getting more money. Like these are ways I just have that time to myself, and I value the time more than I do the money. So that's one of the main things why I'm married in particular. Not only that, but my wife actually adds value to what I do. And has added value to our marriage in more ways than one. So, yeah, that's my spiel on why it's good for a lot of men, majority of men, to keep, and maintain a woman. It teaches you certain rules, certain things. It teaches you It teaches you certain things that you don't get elsewhere, is what I'm saying. And I mean, that's going to be for whoever wants to hear it, but that is it. It's going to be tough to find them, though, because as y'all know, the dating market's tough for guys right now. But when you have one, you have to make sure that, you take care of it, or take care of her, because take care of her because, I mean, that's important, man. That's important to me personally. So I'll sacrifice the going out every night and trying to get interest in new women and scrolling on Tinder every day to have sex with. Like, I'm not trying to do all that. I'm lazy, I guess. I don't know. I just don't have that in me to spend all that time doing that. But go ahead though. I ain't trying to talk, over you, Naila. I'll let you have your time too.
No, I'm hearing everything that you're saying. I think I said it earlier. It's about that pendulum swinging. Sometimes it swings too far to the right. Sometimes it swings too far to the left. We have to somehow find a balance. I understand the manosphere and I understand the red pill movement, absolutely. And if I was a young man coming out, nowadays, I don't know if I necessarily dating would be very tough. But I like to look at the big picture. Communities are not built without that family unit. So if red pill men just go their own way and they just don't deal with women, at the end of the day, you're not homosexual. You want women. You know what I mean? The middle ground are men get with women, women submit to their men, and you produce a family. It's not going to be perfect, but that's the way it goes. But I think we had this conversation before. I don't have a whole lot of hope. I really don't. I don't. I'm just being honest. I just believe you get the information and the knowledge that you get when you get it, and you go with it. So for me personally, I'm in this world. Man, this is hard. I understand that life is not perfect. My husband does not have to be perfect. My husband does not have a perfect wife by any stretch of the imagination, but he got with me I got with him. We produced children, and we're doing the best we can to keep this thing together. It is not
Exactly.
perfect. And so the problem is with the Disney and all this stuff, they want to produce a perfect picture. It's not. When you choose as a man to take on a wife, or as a woman, you choose to be the wife of a husband, you have just entered battle. Okay?
Right. And it's against
Yeah.
every
Right.
other
Yes,
entity in the world, and a
it
lot of
is.
people a
Uh-huh.
lot of people just don't get it. Like a lot of
They
people, as
don't.
as a
Oh,
as a man, you
man.
understanding, especially people that are over here that understand red pill, and that's why I count myself as purple pill, I guess, whatever. But y'all understand human nature, so that means y'all have the ability to teach the woman that you're with if you're patient enough, and if she is attentive enough and is willing to be led. So if you go out and you find a woman that's willing to be led with the information that you have from a lot of these videos in terms of what traps to fall into, like just don't put yourself in certain situations, because a lot of the times it's infidelity what a lot of the guys are worried about, and as you should, because a lot of people are going out and doing what they got to do. But if you teach a woman certain principles, they'll grow a certain respect for you that will transcend. Now, can it still happen? I'm not gonna say nothing is ever gonna. It's never gonna happen. I'm not gonna. But it's no one's perfect. No, there is no perfect world. Can it happen? Yeah, but if you understand and apply a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of you wanting to be a leader, you actually showing that you can lead and going in that direction, you should be good to go if you pick the right woman. A lot of dudes want to talk about women picking the wrong men, but we don't want to talk about dudes that pick the wrong women, because there's a lot of dudes out there that don't know. They get infatuated with sex, and they just can't go
They just
past that in terms of picking a partner, and so they end up being a victim. And a lot
let
of
me
this,
just say this.
a lot of
Okay.
a lot of what this is. And okay, here we got somebody. PMP clip this posted on YouTube. Y'all, for those who don't know, I know there's new people up in here. This video, all of my live streams, because YouTube is trying to demonetize me, will be going to my Patreon. If you guys want access to these videos after the live stream, you have to go be a Patreon member. I may clip some of the stuff and put it up, but for the most part, I'm posting new content. Videos that are demonetized over here will also go to Patreon, and that's just going to be how I'm doing it. I will still post on my YouTube, but I have to now grow on a different site, because y'all know how YouTube get when it comes to ideas that they don't like. All right, so I kind of lost my track right there where I was going. You remember where I
No
was at,
way.
Nyla?
I I have no idea where you're at, but
Okay. Well, I
but I
mean,
have my own place I wanted to go though.
okay, go ahead, because
Just kind
I guess I kind of
of
lost where I was going, trying to get
no, it's
everybody to go
okay.
to the Patreon.
I know it's okay, but I was kind of flowing with you. We flow very well, but I want to remind people of this, like to the young men out there, use the tools that are available to you. In my old age, back in the day when I was dating, we did not have YouTube and social media and dating sites. There was none of this. We had to figure all of this out organically. So if you are a man that truly wants to have a wife that's going to be on your team, use the tools. Show the women that you are considering, to be with, show them podcasts like these. Show
Right.
them Kevin Samuels. Show, because we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have this. Show them that. Take her authentic reaction to these ideas and concepts. Take it as true. And if she's against this, she doesn't like this, move on. And I think that we talked about this in our last video. The main thing with men, okay, let me back up a little bit. Okay, I'm about to get into it with this one. So let me a minute. Give me a minute to unravel this, okay?
Oh yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, let me unravel this. A lot of men, from the couple of videos that I did on my channel, the ones that have the hardest time with this, and my supervisor at my job, he's probably listening right now. Men that are older, they don't like the things that I'm saying, because they've been fed the same garbage that women have been fed. They've been fed that women are princesses, queens, goddesses, and you need to worship them. So me coming on here and kind of dethroning their queen, is very uncomfortable for a lot of older men. They're kind of done because well, I don't want to say just black, but the woman is God. So I'm talking to the younger men right now, and I think we talked about this before. Take the female off of that pedestal. Take her off of there. She does not belong there. The black woman is not a god. She's not a goddess. There's no magic. There's no black girl magic. She's not a queen. I know it's painful. She's not. She's just a female like everyone else. You make what you want to do your pursuit and your goal. If you are blessed enough to find a woman to jump on your team, awesome. Treat her well. You build a life. But be very careful. Don't let that pendulum swing too far to the right or to the left. She's not a god. She's not a queen, but she's not she's not something that you disrespect either. We're not saying that.
Right.
We're trying to be in the middle where we build family units. And this is how we build community. But that pendulum has to get right in that middle. It's a tough balance, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Super chat from Patricia B. I didn't announce it before. I pulled it up, but I didn't announce it. We need to talk about entitlement. What are we owed as people? I would argue nothing. I completely agree with you. As a human being on the planet, nobody owes you anything. You got to earn it. Poor man, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate the super chat, Malush Wilson. I appreciate that. See, what it comes down to, and a lot of people like to believe, because we have spaces like the Manosphere, a lot of dudes like to believe that we are outside of this female worshiping society. Let's just be completely honest. And I know Fresh and Fit talked about this a little bit. They talked about women coming onto their show, and by the time they leave their show, they have 100 new subscribers on OnlyFans. All right. It really comes down to men not being able to control their sexuality. It comes down to a lot of guys not being able to say, no, I don't want to have sex with you because although you look okay, you don't have you don't have that thing. And so a lot of guys become victim of that and they get upset. I do believe though that the marriage laws are definitely in favor and at this point incentivize women to leave something that is already hard. If I was running a marathon and me and my wife was running a marathon and they said, hey, if you quit the marathon, you get $100,000 or you get 50% of everything, you have no incentive to continue to do something hard. So I get that. But at the same time, we have a lot of guys that also don't read character before they decide who they want to commit to, and they just look at the physical, and a lot of times the physical is great for fun, but if you need something that's stable, man, I'm trying to tell you, there's other ways to find that. In the DMV area, the trends for black women are being modern women, having hot girl summers, sitting at wineries and steakhouses in groups of 7 women rather than submitting to men and being friendly. High value men want wives. I completely agree with you, Anthony. Appreciate the super chat, by the way. I completely agree with you. We already talked about the hot girl summers and how women are marrying their friends now. They're marrying their friends in the government. And if that's what you want to do, that's on you. Dudes that are on their purpose, men who stay on their purpose aren't going to sit around and wait for you. We're going to continue to live. But Naila, I'm happy with what we've done today. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh
no, I was about to close up, but if you want to.
Oh, you are? Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. If you want to close up.
I was going to say I'm happy with what we've done. I appreciate you for coming on and helping me carry this show. It was a good one. Always a pleasure. Everybody, you can subscribe to Fem Diaries. It's just how it's read on the title, right? Red Fem Diaries.
Yes.
Or just like her name is on the live stream. You can go find her on YouTube. Go and subscribe to her. Here's my contribution given the HBO special. Love watching your channel. Poor man, keep up the good work. I really appreciate you, Neo trying to get out the matrix. But I appreciate everybody for coming in. If y'all want more access to these kind of videos, live streams every Tuesday, Thursday. On Tuesday, I have a guy that specializes in domestic violence, Dr. Donald Dutton. He specializes on domestic violence. He'll be coming in and talking about domestic violence committed against men and how the police do nothing about it, pretty much. and society perpetuates this idea that it doesn't exist and only violence against women exists. But it's about 50-50 if you look at all the statistics. He's going to come in. He's going to do all that explaining on Tuesday. If you want access to that episode, if you're not here live, that access will be on Patreon. It will be on Patreon, and that's where I got to move some of my stuff because we're being demonetized. That Thursday, I have another show. I also have John Gray coming in August. He'll be giving us, he'll be talking about the hormonal differences between men and women. So there's a big propaganda that men and women are equal and men and women are the same. He'll be talking about, he specializes on the differences, the hormonal differences specifically between men and women. If you want access to that show, that's going to be on Patreon. So guys, go get on Patreon. We're going to have some fun over there. It may not be what you want at the moment, but I'm telling you, it's building up and we're going to have some momentum. I appreciate you again, Naila, for coming on. I think this will be the end of this one. Till next time.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.